Welcome to the Sovereign CEO podcast. I am your host, Caleb Jones, where we talk about location-independent income, moving to a less bad country, or setting up your international backup plan, and do all these things for very little money. And it's interesting when I get questions from my audience, I can immediately tell from the questions often what mindset that person is operating in. And so there's a certain set of questions that I regularly get where it is clear to me the person asking the question is thinking like an employee and not like a business owner, which makes sense because most of my audience, most of you, are employees right now, right? You're an employee, you have a job, you hate your job, it sucks. Even if you have a high income job, you know it sucks, it's location dependent, you wanna be more mobile, you wanna have more freedom, but you're stuck in this job. And so you've never owned a business before. And so of course it makes sense that you would think like an employee, especially if you've been an employee for more than 10 years. So it is a forgivable sin. But in this podcast, I'm gonna help you identify these employee mindset indications so that you can work on this, because you don't want to think like an employee. And if you start a business while thinking like an employee, it's going to be much more difficult for you to be successful. Much more. And there's a lot of you in my audience, I can tell from the questions, that are thinking like an employee, not thinking like a business owner. And so I'm going to go through several questions that I regularly get. And not only will I answer them, but I will discuss why the person asking the question I know is in an incorrect mindset. Okay, so the first one, and one of the biggest ones, one of the most common ones, revolves around going to college. Well, Caleb, I know you're not for going to college, but wouldn't it be better if I had a bachelor's degree in blank? Because wouldn't that look better to potential clients or customers if I had a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in, insert whatever it is, some kind of STEM thing or business thing or computer thing or whatever the fuck. It doesn't really matter what the degree is. Or another one is, I've gotten this question, what would be the best college degree to get to start my own business, which is a horrible question. Boy, talk about an employee mindset, my goodness. So here's the bottom line. I could do a whole thing on why college is a terrible idea. I've written many articles about this. I'm not gonna go into that right now. Going to college is a horrible, 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 horrible idea in the 2020s unless you want to be a doctor. That's the bottom line. And when I say you wanna be a doctor, you better really want to be a doctor, because once you're a doctor forever. If you're a doctor and you suddenly decide you hate being a doctor, you're fucked. You have to stay being a doctor for the rest of your life. I know a lot of doctors who don't want to be doctors and they're stuck because they went to college for 10 years and spent bazillions of dollars, and now they have this lifestyle that can only be managed by being a doctor. So if you really want to be a doctor and that's a passion you have, you're not being a doctor because you want to make a lot of money or because your dad waved his finger in your face and said, you're going to be a doctor, kid, then fine, go ahead and go to college. If you want to be anything else, you should not go to college. That is an employee mindset. The fact that you think that employers are going to ask you for your college degree shows me that you're thinking like an employee. I'm going to give you a real statistic from my life, okay? I have been a consultant, some form of a consultant. My consulting expertise, my consulting topics have changed over time, but I have been a consultant, full-time consultant for 25 years, and several years before that, part-time. Let me ask you a question. Of all the clients I have worked with, and that is hundreds of companies, okay? Thousands of people, hundreds of companies over that period of time. How many potential prospects do you think I have when I was trying to close that business asked me if I had a college degree? How many would you guess? The answer is none. I have literally, this is true, I have literally never been asked by a prospect, well, did you go to college? What's your degree in? I have never, ever, 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 ever been asked that question. And if you're an employee, that is a shocking revelation to you, because when you're an employee and you go on a job interview with an employer who's going to give you a job, of course, one of the first questions they want to know is, where did you go to college? Did you go to college? What's your degree in? That is something that you need to get a job. It is not something you need to get business as a business owner. Customers don't give a shit. They don't care. And I will prove it right now. If you're going to hire someone to solve some kind of problem in your business, okay, some kind of computer problem or inventory problem or customer service. It doesn't matter what it is, okay? Any sort of problem. What is your number one priority for the person you're going to bring into your company to solve that problem? What's the number one priority? That they can solve the problem. Are you going to give a fuck where they went to college? No. What you might ask, and what I have been asked is, have you solved this problem for other companies? How long have you done that? How many other companies have you worked with? What is your area of expertise in this particular area? Those questions you might be asked, but not where did you go to college? You don't care when you hire someone in your business as a non-employee whether or not they went to college. So the fact that you were worried about maybe I should go to college, maybe I should get a degree in this to start my own business. No, 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 no. And you're thinking like an employee and you need to stop. Now, of course, if you said, what is the college degree I need best to get this job and be a slave for the rest of my life? Then yes, go get a college degree. And I've said this before. If you want to be a slave for the rest of your life and work at some bullshit corporate job and go down with the ship when the Western world collapses because you have location-dependent income and no one can give you another job when that happens, then go ahead and get a STEM degree. Go ahead and learn how to code. Go ahead and do all that stupid shit and have fun having a horrible, unfree life. That's your decision. But if you're going to be a business owner and you ask about college, your mindset is in the completely wrong place. You don't need a college degree to be successful in business. I don't have one. I went to college, community college, for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And the only reason I went there for 6 weeks is my mom, who was very big on education, convinced me that I really should go take at least some college courses. And I said, okay, fine. And I took a few college courses in some computer languages. And my mom also said, if you don't do your homework, they don't care. You're just a number, Caleb. They don't care. It's not like high school. They give you a hard time if you don't do homework. They don't care if you don't do homework. They don't care. They don't give a shit. College is very different, Caleb. I said, okay. And this is literally what happened. 6 weeks in, I didn't do some kind of assignment because I didn't want to. And the teacher came to the back of the room and he said, hey, by the way, you're missing these assignments. I said, thank you very much. And as soon as he went back up to his desk, I stood up, walked out of the classroom, and never went back. 6 weeks. That was it. I also, by the way, I've said this before, did not graduate high school. I didn't drop out of high school. I went all 4 years, but I was 2 credits shy of actually getting the diploma, and I never bothered to make those credits up by getting some kind of summer school. So I do not have a college degree. I do not have a high school diploma, and I've made literally millions of dollars as a consultant, and that's just one of my many companies I've started over the past 25 years, 30 years as an adult, and not one person has ever asked me, do you have a college degree? Now, to be fair, there have been some people in my business life, in my consulting side of my life, who have asked where I went to college, but they were employees of companies who had already hired me. I was already working in the business. They were already paying me when they asked that question. But I've never had a scenario where I was talking to a potential prospect, potential new client, and they said, where'd you go to college? I have never had that happen. Get off this college bullshit if you want to own your own business. You don't fucking need it. The next one, which is very similar to this, I get this question semi-regularly. Caleb, I'm going into the tech field, or I'm going into some kind of technical or engineering type thing in terms of starting my own business in the tech field or engineering field, or what have you. Don't you think it'd be a good idea if I got some certifications? Wouldn't that look good to potential clients and customers if I had this certification or that certification or this certification or that certification? Again, the answer is no. I have never been asked, do you have any certifications? Now, to be fair, when I was a computer consultant many years ago, I did have 1 or 2 certifications, and that's because I felt I needed them, but I didn't. I had a Novell certification. I had a Microsoft certification. I remember I had a certification called an A+, which is a computer hardware certification. I did have some, and I thought incorrectly, like many of you, that I needed a certification that would make me more attractive to customers or clients. Not one client or prospect ever gave a shit. I was never asked once. And by the way, I started running into consultants who didn't have any certifications, who made a lot more money than me. I went, aha, I'm doing this wrong. Fuck certifications. No, you do not need certifications. And I know people asking that question are thinking like employees, not business owners, not entrepreneurs. Because yes, an employer, when you go get a job, is going to ask you for your certifications. Many jobs require certain certifications, right? Right. Businesses don't. Clients and customers don't give a shit what certifications you have. If you've ever read one of my books or purchased one of my courses or been involved in any one of my coaching programs, did you even give a shit if I had whatever business certifications or Six Sigma or any of this crap? Did you ever care? No. And that's my point. Here's another thing that I've heard. This is more of an excuse than a question. And it has several variations. I've seen several guys talk about this, but it basically goes like this. I have a job in this big business or this medium-sized company or this company, and my business tried this. So therefore, the industry or the niche that my business that I work for is in is bad. Very recently, I had a guy in one of our Facebook groups said, I'm in the cybersecurity niche. Caleb, you keep talking about cybersecurity, how cybersecurity is a great niche. But the company I work for as a job is in cybersecurity, and it's terrible for these 3 or 4 or 5 reasons. And I tried to convince him unsuccessfully. He was thinking like an employee. You don't have to do exactly what your business is doing. You don't have to sell the exact service your business that you're working for is doing. You don't have to price it the same way. You don't have to pursue the same type of customer or client the company that you're working for is doing. You don't have to do exactly what your primary company is doing. And again, when I see guys make that excuse, they're thinking like employees. Well, my company did this, so therefore, I could never make this work in the real world. Perfect example of this. The last company I worked at as an employee, this is back in the mid-1990s now, this is 25 years ago, was Nike. I worked at Nike corporate headquarters. And there were lots of guys who wanted to go out and start their own shoe companies or clothing companies. And they said, well, you know, Nike tried this or does this and it didn't work. So Nike, this giant multinational corporation with back then 4,000 employees, they did this. So it won't work if I did it. After I quit Nike, many years later, one of the clients I had as a consultant was a guy. He was an Asian guy. I forget his name. Nice guy. And he would work a few days a week and he made a strong, high 6-figure income. And he only worked a few hours a day. He would drive to work in his Porsche, come out, and he would design shoes. Literally, he would draw pictures of shoes and send them to companies all over the world. He had one employee, a little old lady that ran his business, and he would come in at like 10 a.m., leave at about 2 or 3. That was his workday. This guy made money doing exactly the thing that all these employees at Nike said would never work. Stop thinking like an employee. Stop assuming that whatever your big, dumb company is doing, you must do. There are many of you working for companies where you could quit your job, start a business in that same niche or industry. Be careful about that. But you can start a business doing that and make tons of money in ways your big dumb corporation could never do. Another question I get where I know the person asking the question is thinking like an employee is, don't I need a lot of LinkedIn followers to start this business? Don't I need a lot of LinkedIn people? No. I was making strong 6 figures back when my LinkedIn page was empty. No, you don't. And again, that is an employee thing. Well, it looks good to employers if I have this amazing LinkedIn page and I have over 500 connections and blah, blah, blah. Yes, when you're going after a job, that can help in certain industries. When you have a business, no. Now, does it help to have a really good LinkedIn page if you're selling something like B2B? Yes, and I have myself, it shows on my LinkedIn page over 500 connections. Matter of fact, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can go to alphamale20.com/links, scroll down list. You'll have all my social media pages there. You can click LinkedIn, you can see my LinkedIn page. I should probably update it, it's a little old. But anyway, yes, I have that too. But I'm telling you, I did not need that to close any business. I was closing lots of business before I ever needed this. LinkedIn is a helpful tool. It's pretty cool, but you do not need it to be in business, even yes, a professional business or a B2B business. Here's the last question or excuse that I've gotten where I know the person is thinking like a scared little employee. Hey, Caleb, I took some of your business advice, your business content, and I showed it to my boss at work. And he said, insert a bunch of negative stuff here, like it won't work, or that's not right, or that's stupid, or that'll only work for this kind of person. Or I went and showed this to my brother, who is an employee, who has a job and not a business. And he said this and this and this. Or I showed it to whatever person, and the person you showed it to was someone who didn't own their own business. It was to someone who had a job and they disagreed with what you said. I shouldn't have to explain to you why that's stupid. If you want real advice, if you want a real critique of my material, feel free to take any of my business content and give it to someone who has their own business. And you'll get a much more accurate critique than someone who has a job who's never started a business in their entire lives. I've talked about that. One of my personal rules is that I don't take any business advice from anyone who makes less money than me. That is a hard and fast rule. I've followed that forever. Now, I may take individual advice like, how to improve my YouTube videos or things like that. But overall business advice, People love to give their fucking opinions when they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And so on a semi-regular basis, not as much today as I used to, but on a semi-regular basis, I will get people who say, Caleb, in your business, you're doing this. You know what you should do? You should do this. And it's some guy who makes 1/10 my income. Thank you very much. I'm not going to take your advice. You make less money than me. Now, the flip side is also true. If I get someone who makes a lot more money than me and they give me advice, I'm like, whoa, hang a second. I pull out my phone. I start taking notes. I say, okay, can you say that again? Because now I'm interested. If you make more money than me, I'm totally interested in your advice. If you make less than me, I'm sorry, you can go pound sand. And that's not just about making money. On a semi-regular basis, I will get critiques on like my YouTube videos. Some guy will say, Caleb, you'd get more YouTube followers if you did this in your videos. And you click the guy's name and he has 4 followers. I have thousands. I don't have very many as compared to big YouTube names, but I have thousands of followers. Why the hell would I listen to you when you don't have nearly as many followers as I do? Same thing when I was doing blogging. I would have guys who say, your blog would really do better if you wrote articles like this, or you did this or did that. And I'm like, do you have a blog? No. Great. So this goes back to that. Why the hell are you asking non-business owners for business advice? Stupid. Don't do that. And again, I know if you're doing that, you're in this fear-based employee mindset instead of a risk-taker, prosperity consciousness, business owner mindset. Now, there are other questions I'm sure I could think of that I'm probably not remembering right now from people from my audience where I immediately go, that guy's thinking like an employee. Just be aware of this. When you ask questions, think about what context is this question coming from. You don't want to think like an employee. That will get you nowhere in the modern era. And as I said thousands of times, if this was the 1950s, 1960s, you could think like an employee and be an employee your entire life and you'd be fine. Today, if you think like an employee, you're going to get fucking crushed. You probably already are getting crushed in most cases. Right? Right. I hope this has been helpful. I will see you in the next podcast. Have fun. Bye.